Okay, everyone, this is it. Our early decision deadline for Renegade Accelerator is June 1st. That's Tuesday if you are listening when this episode launched. So I encourage you to head to renegadeaccelerator.com to check out more about the program. If you're not familiar, we are all about 10xing the way you think and execute in order to make a much larger impact and generate more income. This is for female leaders, executives, founders, and the curriculum is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. Just head to renegadeaccelerator.com. If you want more information, the homepage has a video of our graduates talking about their experience and their results. So we encourage you to sign up for the emails if you're not sure, and really consider if this is the time to level up and ask yourself, why not now? Why not invest in my future? It pays dividends over time. I can tell you that for sure. Always bet on yourself. RenegadeAccelerator.com has all the info.
Don't wait to be happy. It's not that next 5 pounds you lose. It's not that next job you get. It's not that, well, if this situation just got fixed, then I could be happy. No, go ahead and work towards your goals, but don't sacrifice happiness now. Be happy now.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Just let go.
Colonel Dr. Roxanne Wallace is on the show today. She's an orthopedic surgeon in the Army, and she just graduated from the Renegade Accelerator. She was actually deployed in Afghanistan while she went through the program. Dr. Rox is a voice of authority when it comes to leadership. Not only does she have the 10,000 plus hours from her military experience, but also from being in the operating room. It's incredible to learn and hear from someone who has had to practice leadership and develop their leadership skills during extremely intense situations, whether that be while she's deployed, at war, or in the operating room as a surgeon. So we dive in. We go through the tools and the tips and the things that Dr. Rox uses during those situations. She talks about how she navigates from furious to curious. She talks about how she stays calm during situations where the tendency is to maybe speed up versus slow down. And she shares how we can bring this even into business. We discuss how these specific tools can apply to situations that we're in, whether it's entrepreneurship, in business, within corporate walls, or all of the above. Dr. Rox has a saying. She says, if I intimidate you, up your game. And she explains what she means by that. It's not a power move. It's actually a move of mentorship, of leadership, of coaching. Another area we explore is being overwhelmed. As you can imagine, becoming an orthopedic surgeon and a colonel in the Army, that takes a lot of time. And so if you were to look at all the steps in front of you in order to achieve those things, there are many, and it could become very overwhelming. Well, it did. And so Roxanne talks through what she's done to manage that overwhelm over the decades. We cover off on motherhood. We cover off on decision-making. And really, this is a wide-ranging conversation from a leadership expert who I greatly respect. Without further ado, here is Dr. Roxanne, actually Colonel Dr. Roxanne Wallace. Colonel Dr. Roxanne, welcome to the Why Not Now show. In the spirit of Why Not Now, can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you had to ask yourself the question, why not now? And we'll dissect that day, minute, hour, season, and kind of reverse engineer and understand, how did you get from idea to action?
I think one of the most pivotal why not nows for me was when I up and changed schools at the last minute to go to college. I was all set to go to Creighton University. There were only about 4 colleges in the era that were doing biomedical engineering, which is what I wanted. And I think it was late June, I got a call from an Army recruiter because I had an Army scholarship that I was going to school on. And he wanted me to come to Boston University. And at that time, the scholarship was paying 80% tuition. And I was like, I can't afford Boston University. I can't afford that other 20%. I didn't even consider it. He goes, well, BU will give you a scholarship for the rest of that. Why don't you come on down? I was like, oh, I'm there. And my mom is in the background going, no. You can't go across the country.
Too far.
That's too far. So my recruiter actually got on the phone with my mom and reassured her and convinced her that he was going to take care of me and I would be just fine. And she's like, well, who's going to pick her up from the airport? I mean, she wanted down to the detail of how this is going to work out. And so we worked it all out and, sight unseen, no college visit, 2 suitcases in hand, flying across the country by myself, at 17 and headed to my 4-year adventure at Boston University.
Oh my goodness. Last minute, just game time decision to switch it up. And that really, wow. Okay. So that was a trajectory shift, I imagine, right? So that really set you, we always talk about you change yourself 5 degrees and you're going to go in a completely different place, but you change yourself 20 or 30 or 40 and you're in a different stratosphere. So then what? Can you talk us through a little bit, if we were to see the movie trailer of Colonel Dr. Roxanne Wallace, what would we see? Real quick, your timeline.
My course has always been very, very intentional and predictable. Not a lot of leaps of faith, right? Just a lot of, okay, this step, then this step, then this step to get where I wanted to go. So that was, undergraduate, medical school, scholarships to both, because I had no college fund to back me up. And then just navigating all those little steps of the certification tests that you have to take to get from place to place and the boards that you have to get through to make these leaps and the jobs you have to get, i.e. a residency to make it to orthopedic surgery. And the trajectory has always been very, very calculated. So it's not very entrepreneurial, obviously, but there are a lot of relationships and undertones that all go together with that are very common across the human experience, if you will. So that's what really kind of, I think, is common from coming from me to the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And I think just the notion of how did you keep from getting overwhelmed at the path in front of you? Because you mentioned step by step, which it's all of those just added up. But at the same time, if you were to look at that entire staircase, I can imagine how, you spent a lot of time in school, getting educated and training. You've been deployed multiple times. You're now a colonel. How did you not just get overwhelmed by how many steps were in front of you?
I think I did.
You did.
And several times
and
I did.
How did you deal with that?
My method of dealing with overwhelming is to dissect it down. And I usually make a to-do list, and then I make a pro and con list, and I basically organize it. And when I do that, then I see pieces that I can manage and pieces that I can accomplish. And I start on that road. So it's human, normal to get overwhelmed. And several times, I did, especially my undergraduate degree required an extra semester full of credits, but you still had to get it done in 4 years. So, navigating how to get that done and all that extra time. And then I also was in ROTC at the time. And I also played a couple of years of college volleyball, and just adding all that in, you have to be organized. And I did definitely get overwhelmed. And I had my sophomore year, I think I gained like 30 pounds because I was just out of balance, way out of balance. I was pulling all-nighters. I was eating pizza and ice cream all the time. And by the end of that year, I was 30 pounds overweight. And I kind of said, okay, this isn't sustainable. This is a little ridiculous. All right, how do I do this? Got on a diet plan and exercise plan, and then said, okay, what created this? Mm-hmm. And now how do I fix that? How do I stay in balance? Okay, can't keep pulling these all-nighters. All right, got to get better at planning the diet and nutrition in, because I was always exercising, but got to get better at balancing these other two things, and got back in balance.
That's so interesting, because obviously, how do I fix it? But what created this? That is so key, right? Getting curious about, why did I create this situation? How did I create the situation? Leads us to a lot of times the solution. So do you use that in the operating room, or how are there any, I'm totally going to jump here, but I've been thinking about this with you for a while, because in the Renegade Accelerator, some of your answers in terms of decision-making and decisiveness, like you're a 10, like you're very decisive, and you probably because you have to be, I imagine. Was that training or was that innate? And can you talk a little bit about how maybe that calculus that you have not only applies to your work and your profession in medicine, but also to your life, like just the decisiveness? Because we talk about idea to action a lot, and a lot of people navigate it differently. I'm like you, but let's is that learned? Is that your DNA?
I think it's both. I think there is an innate part of, do you want to be that decisive person? Do you want to be that person in charge and directing things? Because not everybody does. Some people want to be on the team or be a supporter or follower, and we need everybody. And then in surgery, obviously, you have to train those decisions. And you have to train, what if, how do I solve that problem? How do I get out of this situation if I get into it? And that decisiveness. And yes, surgery trains you. You are it. If you don't fix it, it's not getting fixed. If you don't solve the problem with the equipment or the anatomy or anesthesiology or that, your patient doesn't get what they need. And so that's absolutely the onerous part. And you have to want that to start down that path.
Oh, I have so many follow-up questions to this. Okay, so when you are in those intense situations, do you kind of have a sequence of first, what created this? How do I fix it? Or sometimes is it just, how do I fix it? Probably a little bit of both, and I imagine it becomes more and more natural. But do you have a step 1, step 2?
I have a step 1, stay calm. Step 2, don't get worked up, start working the problem. And then I start looking at, how did I get into this situation? Am I looking at the wrong exposure? Am I where I think I am in the anatomy? Has the anatomy failed me? Is there something here I didn't expect? All right, what equipment, what implant, what allograft do I need to solve this situation? And almost all of that has been pre-planned. When I'm going into a surgery, I've got plan A to Z lined up of what ifs, and then start going through it. And that's the process. Number 1, I'm it. Number 2, stay calm. Number 3, how do I fix it?
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm hopping in here to tell you about a new discovery of mine. I'm in love, and let me tell you, I've fallen hard. We all like our caffeine in the morning. I look forward to that first, second, and fifth cup of coffee in the morning. But now I exclusively drink super coffee. I'm such a fan that I actually invested in the company, the team, and their culture. The love for what I do every day makes me jump out of bed in the morning, but super coffee truly fuels that fire. It's fueled with positive energy, from the ingredients they use to their brand promise. Super coffee removes the negatives like sugar and adds the positives like MCT oil and protein so that you can maximize your day. I have an embarrassing secret. I used to be addicted to diet soda. I'd roll out of bed and pop open a can before my eyes were even fully open. I had never been a huge coffee drinker, but when I gave up diet soda on July 12th, 2015, yes, the moment deserves an anniversary. It was a big deal. I needed another caffeine source at that point. For me, that meant coffee with lots of artificial sweeteners, with crazy ingredients I can't pronounce that made me crash by 2 p.m. or so. Well, not anymore. Super coffee is different. As I mentioned, there's no added sugar, and some of the flavors I love have 10 grams of plant protein. Now, I'm not a big meat eater, so this really helps, and they've just added a few new flavors to their plant-based offering, like French vanilla and sweet cream. They only use ingredients that are great tasting, great for you, and sustain you for the long haul. Nothing shady, only positives. The taste is delish, I can tell you. Take it from someone who needs that extra flavor to enjoy the taste of coffee. And super coffee also comes in ground coffee, Keurig pods, creamers, and more on their website, drinksupercoffee.com. One of the things my team and I love most is that on drinksupercoffee.com, you can shop Super Coffee's wide variety of products based on your dietary needs, including gluten-free, plant-based, Whole30, keto, or even vegan, right there on their website. There's something for everyone. While you're on the site, go ahead and stock up because Super Coffee is hooking up Why Not Now listeners with a 25% discount. Head to supercoffee.com and use the code Why Not Now for your 25% discount on all products. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works again for all products. Just use Why Not Now as your code, all one word. There are no restrictions. I'm an investor in Super Coffee because the founders truly do walk the talk. Yes, their coffee provides positive energy, but so does their company culture. Their founders are 3 brothers who share a work hard and be nice to people mentality, and they spread that throughout their culture at Super Coffee. They know the importance of having diverse perspectives at the leadership level, and you know I'm a fan of elevating women in leadership. In fact, one of my Renegade Accelerator grads, Jamie Christ, is one of those women. So once that positive energy arrives on your doorstep, hit me up on social at Amy Jo Martin and show me what flavors and products you went with. And bonus points if you try one of their seasonal blends. The company is growing quickly, and you'll probably start noticing Super Coffee in your local Walmart, Target, or Costco. They are now in over 30,000 retailers nationwide. To take advantage of your exclusive 25% discount, head to drinksupercoffee.com and enter Why Not Now at checkout. That's Why Not Now, all one word. drinksupercoffee.com is the only place this offer is available, and your discount works for all products, no restrictions. I was talking to a friend a long time ago, and my default is quick. Like I kind of run hot, fast, and she had worked in the FBI, and she learned, especially with her weapons and training, her boss, coach, or whoever, whatever you would call them, said to her once, "Slow is smooth and smooth is fast." And I just really, that's always clicked with me. And I wonder,
you can't get going too fast, I imagine, because there's no room for mistakes, right? So is part of calm, does it relate to pace?
Yes. For me, absolutely. I would say that's not across all surgeons, but it is for me. Controlling the pace controls my calmness, and it is for me.
And I think for people listening in any intense situation, or when you feel like you are in a moment of have to fix something, panic, which in entrepreneurship and in business, it's not like you're in the operating room. It might feel like it, but we usually have a little more time. I think that can really, really help us. We want to react, we want to fix it, and that extra breath of checking in and getting logic back in the driver's seat. That's so good. That's so interesting. And having a plan A to Z. That's another big thing that in business, I think we might have A, B, C, and then there might be an innovation Hail Mary. Maybe we could find an F. But yeah, having a very if this, then that across the board. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's one thing you find yourself learning over and over?
Well, my latest has been the furious to curious that I had to teach myself over and over again. And it's taking practice. It's absolutely taking practice. I've definitely missed the boat a few times on just staying furious and reacting instead of backing up and getting curious and responding. And so it is a practice that I am trying to train into myself.
Responding versus reacting. And that enables going from furious to curious. And so that's good right there. Talk about a reframe. Are you pretty self-aware? Have you found that you've been able to train that ability to identify the situations quicker?
I'm getting better at it, but no, I'm definitely not there yet, where I'm more often than not going from furious to curious. I'm still training that in. I would say I'm probably in the 50-50 category right now.
What are some of the benefits of getting curious in your experience with, tangible situations you've been in? What has been some of the ROI, the return on that?
Well, I'm ruining fewer relationships is how I would put it. So my MO is direct, blunt, get what you get. And that works eventually, right? Because people eventually figure out my intentions and my heart and where I'm going, and that I don't have these biased ulterior motives that are nefarious. But I'm trying to dial it back to doing that at ground zero instead of eventually. And I think one of the ways to do that for me is to do this furious to curious and filter that response where I am still direct and articulate, but maybe not so blunt, maybe not creating negative feelings in the person receiving the message.
Oh, this is so good for me. This is definitely a big area of growth and opportunity for me too. And when you think about context sometimes too, that was what I was going to ask you, is how do you still retain the integrity of and the value of being direct? And that's a strength, right? But maybe remove some of the weakness surrounding it, then in maybe it's delivery or through text, through email. I find myself, I can get into sticky situations very quickly. Would you say it's almost always a conversation, right?
To get out of the situation?
Yeah, and to navigate with the other. Yeah.
I think the email and the texting is absolutely out of control, because everybody can then interject their own tone or their own bias, and there's not enough context to buffer the situation. And I think that is a huge thing. And I get myself into trouble there a lot, especially because I'm so blunt on email. I will literally say, no, not doing that. And that's the end of the email. I don't offer any alternatives or backdrop. I'm definitely working on that.
And I think that self-awareness again, like this morning I had a text exchange. was not bad at all, but I thought to myself, you know what, this is a conversation. But because it started even via text, just the maybe the misalignment, it immediately grabbed momentum in a direction that wasn't necessary, right? So sometimes it even just might start there. There's a seed, and I'm like, Amy Jo, pick up the phone. Or even if you can't get to them, voice note so they can hear your sentiment a little more. But so leadership in general, I mean, you're a colonel. You have been through formal training and also just experience of walking the planet in the ways you have and the situations you have. What are some of your top leadership tips? And I know that you've learned from a lot of people as well, but there are some Wallace-isms, I'm aware. Can we talk through this topic? It's a big one. But you are a voice of authority when it comes to leadership.
I think the number one tip for leadership I have is being humble and being kind. I think those are the number one leadership things, treating people as people and not obstacles. Because so often we get our firefighter hat on and we're just trying to put out fires left and right, solve problems left and right. And when we get into that mode, that focused mode, we can lose sight of the people that are causing the problems or that need us to solve the problem. And when we dehumanize the process, we get into trouble. And so those would be my biggest pearls.
Those are good. And what's amazing is that's all pretty attainable to shift if you are aware and intentional, right? It's not like you
Absolutely.
you don't have to go get your MBA to do that, but practice. And then can you explain to me, one of my favorite sayings of yours is gravity always wins. Okay, tell us first of all, yes, I think everybody's probably like, yeah, good point. It does. And my mind goes to so many different ways and applications, but tell me where that came from and just more about it. If we were to double down on that statement.
Well, it's actually a very literal translation for me. I mean, so when I'm asking a patient, how did this happen? And they're describing some precarious situation where they're on a ledge or on a ladder or on something that's moving very fast with no protection. And then their injury has happened. I'm like, gravity always wins. So it's a very literal translation for me in orthopedics and kind of, what keeps me in business.
Gotcha. Fair enough. And what's funny is, of course, I'm like dissecting it and thinking about volume and momentum and just pace and trends in business. And it tends to be the same, right? When you have force or power on something, it's going to tend to win, but it doesn't always have to be the type of force or power we think. You know what I mean? In terms of falling off of trampoline is pretty literal, right? Yeah. For you and your profession.
You could easily take that into a metaphor in business. And in that, if you are creating a momentum or a movement and you're changing the trajectory of your object in motion, you can keep it from falling. So you could absolutely make that metaphor into a business metaphor.
Yeah, absolutely. And what an opportunity for innovation to reframe what gravity means in terms of it doesn't need to be what we might assume, in terms of power, force, volume. The role that you're in, Rox, and the journey you're navigating and have navigated, military, medicine, at the top of your fields, you've worked with a lot of men, and I'm sure a lot of very high-ranking and powerful men. And I know you and I, have talked before about how we bridge and really try to navigate how men and women can both rise together versus an us versus them, which will never work. What are some of your either tips or maybe even have a anecdotal story, not specifics, but of how to best create and foster a situation where it isn't an us against them? Because I imagine you're outnumbered almost every single time. Absolutely.
In orthopedics, there's about 6% that are female. In the Army, there's about 15% that are female.
But what about at your rank?
I don't know the numbers on that. Absolutely don't. I could
A lot,
probably,
I would think smaller, a lot smaller.
yeah, probably if you went Army wide. I definitely am a little bit more surrounded by it in the medical field than in the general forces. So I would say, let's see, biggest pearl on how to navigate that, still learning, obviously every day in that process, is take it on as an individual. Take on each relationship, each business interaction as an individual situation. There are, of course, stereotypes and biases in them and in you that can affect the situation. And that's always going to be different. It's never going to be the same every time. And the other thing I do is I don't think of men as the enemy. Men are my partners. Men are my superiors, my peers, my supporters, my patients. They're in every role in my life, and it's not a contest. It used to be a contest, and there used to be only so few women in different fields. And once a woman got into that field, then she felt like she had to protect that job, right? Even against other women.
Yeah.
Or the whole queen being thing that Sally Krawcheck describes. I recently recognized that as well, because it was something I noticed in my life, where women fighting women or women competing against women, and I couldn't identify it. I couldn't figure out what it was or why it was there and how to solve it. That Sally Krawcheck's book really helped me identify that and navigate through that, and then own your own diversity and your own value. And I think that's huge in stopping the competition and in stopping men are the enemy forces that kind of comes with traditional feminism, if you will, and kind of modernizing feminism to now. Okay, we don't have to compete against each other. We can support each other. We can all make things better in our own little individual steps and on that way instead of competing for it.
When you think about just the shifting, and can you teach that? How do you teach that? Because I'm sure it's lead by example to a certain extent, but a lot of women look up to you and your people on your team. And, I'm hoping that we can spread that practice and that word. As a leader, is it purely lead by example? How do we really teach that?
It is lead by example for our fellow women, but it is also building those relationships across the genders that has to happen too. There has to be an open door to create that relationship and that working together. So it's not just lead by example, because if you're doing that with your peers that are seeing it, you're not extending that network. So you have to open doors and be open to those relationships.
As far as navigating motherhood, and you joined the club earlier on in your career, in your schooling, right? But having the intense schedule that you have, what have been some of your go-to tools to be able to do what you do? And I'm not going to use the word balance because it's just not really a part of my life, I guess. Without it, because sometimes things are louder than others, based on where you are in your life. So it's really tough. That's a tricky, slippery word, I think.
That's true. I would say that was actually another probably why not now moment in my life, deciding when to start our family. And I was a fourth-year medical student, and I, got married a couple of years before that. And my husband had really kind of put a timeline on. He was going to have kids for the next 5 years or so, and that was going to be it, because he didn't want to be the old dad. And so I talked to one of my chief residents at the time. I was doing an OBGYN rotation, and I'm like, how do I fit this in? Where does it fit in? How do I navigate this? And she was like, you just do. You just make a decision, and then you make it work. There isn't a good time. I'm sorry to tell you, there isn't a good time for this. And so I did. Okay, why not now? So we did. We started our family. I was a fourth-year medical student and navigating, medical training and different things while being pregnant, delivering while on one of my away medical student rotations. Kelsey came a week early, so that was interesting. As you know, how interesting that can be. Balancing it, I don't mind the word balance. I think it's kind of critical and kind of important to how we do it. And my balance are those 5 F's, that I gave to the group, which are faith, family, fitness, friends, and fun. And all of those things are key components into kind of feeding my soul and keeping it happy. I would say the other thing I would tell people is don't wait to be happy. It's not that next 5 pounds you lose. It's not that next job you get. It's not that, well, if this situation just got fixed, then I could be happy. No, go ahead and work towards your goals, but don't sacrifice happiness now. Be happy now.
That's powerful. So powerful. Oh, I love it. So with the Renegade Accelerator, you joined at such an interesting time and space in your life because you were deployed. Can you talk a little bit about the experience and what did you want and what did you get from it? And it's not over because you're in the collective now. But yeah, I think it'll be helpful for women to hear.
So my goal with the Renegade Accelerator was to find new tools and resources to improve my relationship with my chains of command in all situations across the Army. And I absolutely did that. Especially Lisa Stone was key in pointing me in resource directions for this. She's the one who gave me the Own It book by Sally, and she sent me another book recently, Humor Seriously. And so she's been key. And I picked up a ton of tools on how to own my diversity, own my value, start building those relationships. How do I eliminate the negative things that I create so that they're not obstacles in what's going on? And as I put it into play, now that I'm redeployed and I'm working back, I've made some missteps. It's hard to change those old habits, but I have definitely also seen, okay, that's different than how I would have handled that situation, and created a positive result from the interaction instead of a more negative result. But it is for sure a training work in progress. That's, I would say, what RA did for me. And then it also, of course, gave me this incredible backdrop of people who are like, no, you got this. Step up. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to grow. It's okay to own something that is right, that is going to work. And to have that network is something that I didn't expect to find.
That's very common too. Thank you for sharing, because I hear that often in terms of the people that you are taking this journey on end up being a huge part of the value and the experience, but it wasn't necessarily expected. And I think the diversity in sector really plays into that, where I know we've learned so much from you because so many of your lessons, just that you've even spoken about today, and tools apply. And they can actually, I think, instill innovation in business, in entrepreneurship. And so thank you. One of your sayings too, this is a Wallace-ism, and I'd love to double click into it, is if I intimidate you, up your game, raise your game. Can you talk about what that means? And it resonated so much with our group. And it can be misunderstood too. So tell us what you mean by that.
So what I mean by that is, quite often when I'm in a relationship where I'm working a problem, the person I'm working with is intimidated either by my position or my education or by me, my intensity, my focus. And they bring a lot of biases and insecurities often to the situation. And to try to navigate that can be a minefield, because I don't own any of those biases or those fears that you're bringing to the table. But I want you to join me even on my playing field. I want you to step up, work through those biases, come up here and work with me. I can't keep working against your biases and your insecurities. And that's exhausting to me. So that's where if I intimidate you, up your game comes from. But instead of being a power play or a put you in your place, it's humble. It's, I'm not better than you. I'm just not you. I'm here. Come up to my playing field, leave the biases and insecurities behind, and let's work this.
It's interesting how it has such a flavor of mentorship, coaching, leadership to it, where you're helping elevate someone to work through those biases or preconceived notions. I love it so much. I think it's kind of an all boats rise with the tides in a way, if you force, and we're going to play up here, versus it's not a, hey, I'm looking down on you, power play. There's a lot of health in that. I think it's a very healthy tool. I have to ask, so if we were to go back to Roxanne, who's getting the phone call, thinking she's going to Creighton, and then hears from Boston University and realizes, oh, I can get a full ride. I just need to make this pretty big 180 last minute. If you could go back to her before you handed your mom the phone to the recruiter and say something, anything at all, what would you say to her?
It's going to be okay. Make the jump. It's going to be okay. And bad things might happen, but that'll be okay too. It's all part of the experience. There's good and bad, and it'll be okay.
So good. So good. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom with us. And how can people follow you and just, watch your journey unfold? What's the best way?
Let's see. I'm on social. Instagram is at sports.rocks. And let's see. LinkedIn is, of course, and Twitter. And Twitter, I'm at Dr. Rocks.
And it's ROX. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And
you're welcome.
I'm honored to bear witness to your journey and to be a beneficiary from learning from you. So thank you.
Oh, I thank you as well. I enjoyed the relationships, and I've been surprised by that. And I don't know why, but the diversity in the Renegade Collective, because you're so used to working in your field and collaborating with people that are like you, that you forget that there's a lot of likenesses that don't involve exactly what you do. And I think that's a huge valuable lesson that I learned too.
Amazing. That's one of our very fierce intentions, is to have that exponential learning through cross-pollination.
Mm-hmm.
You're exactly right. Well, thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?